When you've worked the same piece of land for 40 years, you know every fence post, every rock that hides under the soil, and every place where the ground dips just enough to hold rainwater after a storm. My farm sits on the edge of what used to be open country outside Waco, Texas. Over the years, the fields around me filled up with housing developments. Asphalt crept closer like a slow tide. I didn't mind at first. Growth happens. But I never expected the day an HOA would roll right over my boundary. Literally. It started one hot afternoon in early June. I was mending a section of barbed wire when I saw survey stakes lined up along my southern fence line. A few days later, trucks rolled in. Graders, dump trucks, men in orange vests. They started clearing brush and leveling ground. On my side of the fence. I walked down and waved for the foreman. He looked at me like I was interrupting his lunch break. "You fellas know this is private property, right?" I said. He glanced at his clipboard. "We're building an access road for Sunfield Estates, HOA approved." "HOA doesn't own this land," I told him. "I do." He shrugged. "Take it up with them." So I did. That night I drove into the subdivision and went straight to the HOA office. The board president, a man named Rick, greeted me with a salesman's grin and a golf shirt that probably cost more than my monthly power bill. "Mr. Hayes, right? We were expecting to hear from you," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "We're constructing a small connector road to improve emergency access. The county signed off." I opened the folder. Inside was a map with a thick gray line that sliced right across 5 acres of my property, land that had been in my family since my grandfather bought it in 1948. "This is trespassing," I said flatly. Rick leaned back, still smiling. "Technically, the county easement overlaps with your boundary. It's complicated paperwork. I'm sure we can work something out." Complicated paperwork was his way of saying, "We're hoping you'll roll over and not fight us." But I wasn't about to roll over. The next morning I pulled every deed, plat map, and tax document I had. My late wife, God rest her soul, always said to keep records just in case. She was right. The easement line on my property ended 22 feet short of where they were building. That road was not a mistake, it was theft. I hired a local attorney named Laura who had a reputation for eating HOA boards alive. She came out, walked the boundary, took photos, and filed a cease and desist order within 24 hours. The HOA ignored it. By week's end, they'd poured gravel and started laying asphalt. The arrogance was unbelievable. Laura looked at me and said, "Fine, let's make them regret it." She filed a civil suit for trespass, property damage, and unauthorized use of private land. We added the construction company and the county as secondary defendants for failing to verify the boundary. Word got around fast. Some of my neighbors called me crazy for going up against an HOA. Others stopped by to shake my hand and say, it's about time someone stood up to them. The court process took months. During that time, I kept farming. I drove past that half-finished road every day, a strip of fresh pavement slicing through my pasture like a scar. The more I looked at it, the more determined I became. When the hearing finally came, the HOA's attorney tried to argue that the easement gave them implied access, but the county surveyor, subpoenaed by Laura, testified that the HOA had relied on an outdated map and never requested a current survey. That single statement flipped the case. The judge ruled that the HOA had unlawfully encroached on private property. They were ordered to remove the section of road, restore the land to its original condition. When the verdict was read, Rick looked like someone had taken the air out of him. The HOA tried to appeal, but the county refused to back them. Within 6 weeks, the road was torn up, the asphalt hauled away, and my field reseeded. I didn't get any joy watching them undo it, but I did feel justice. A few months later, Rick resigned for personal reasons. A new HOA board reached out, asking if we could work together better in the future. I told them I was always open to cooperation, as long as they respected the fence line. Sometimes folks in suits forget that farmers aren't pushovers. We might not talk fancy or quote statutes, but we understand fairness. You can't just take what isn't yours and call it progress. Now, whenever I drive my tractor past that patch of grass where the road used to be, I smile a little. The ground's healed, the cows are back, and the HOA learned that boundaries, like property rights, exist for a reason. If you take one thing from my story, let it be this: stand your ground. Whether it's your land, your home, or your principles, don't let anyone roll over them without a fight. And if you enjoyed hearing how one old farmer turned the tables on a greedy HOA, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories that prove a little grit and persistence still go a long way.